Some stories fade the moment the screen goes dark, and some quietly take up space in your chest for days, not with explosions or epic battles, but with silences, glances, and moments that feel all too real. This list isn't about blockbusters or the titles everyone's already seen. It's about the ones that slip through the cracks, films that whisper instead of shout, and still manage to break your heart wide open. This is Tammy Klutman, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 tear-jerking Korean movies you've probably never heard of. Maybe you'll recognize one, maybe you'll find a new favorite. Either way, prepare yourself. These aren't just movies, they're emotional landmines. We hope you'll enjoy the movies listed. Let us know your favorite in the comments, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video again. Number 10. Cracked Eggs and Noodles. This film follows the story of a carefree 26-year-old man who works for an illegal distributor that makes pirated copies of music albums. He enjoys a stress-free life, dating without commitments, until one day, a young boy suddenly appears at his doorstep, claiming to be his son. At first, he laughs it off, but after doing some quick math, he realizes there's a chance the boy might be telling the truth. Still, there's no way he's giving up his bachelor lifestyle that easily. Determined to get rid of the kid, he tries everything, reporting him to the police, abandoning him on the street, even pretending they've never met. But no matter what he does, the boy just won't leave. Then, out of nowhere, the boy makes an offer. He'll leave for good if they take a trip across the country together first. Thinking there's no way a 9-year-old can last more than 3 days, he agrees. But what starts as a simple deal soon turns into a journey that changes his life in ways he never imagined. Number 9. How to Steal a Dog. The film follows a 10-year-old girl who has been living in a pizza van with her mom and little brother ever since her father went bankrupt and ran off. She does everything she can to keep their harsh reality a secret at school, while quietly dreaming of a place they can finally call home. But with her mom barely making ends meet, that dream feels far out of reach. One day, she's forced to reveal her secret to her best friend. While wandering together, they spot a listing outside a real estate agency that reads $5,000 per square meter. Not understanding what it really means, they believe an entire house costs just $5,000. Soon after, they come across a reward poster offering the same amount, $5,000, for a missing dog. Thinking this could be their way out, they call the number, only to learn the dog was already found long ago. Though disappointed, the girl quickly comes up with a bold idea: steal, well, in her words, borrow a dog from a wealthy owner, return it later, and claim the reward. Without fully grasping the risks, the two friends begin planning their dangerous little mission. Number 8. Thread of Lies. The film opens with a heartbreaking tragedy. A 14-year-old schoolgirl takes her own life without warning, leaving behind a devastated single mother and an older sister consumed by shock and guilt. No one saw it coming, and the question of why hangs heavily in the air. Desperate for answers, the older sister begins to piece together the final days of her sister's life. She starts with her school and the people closest to her, hoping to uncover even the smallest clue to explain what led to the unthinkable. But the deeper she digs, the more unsettling things become. Everyone she talks to has a different version of the truth, and none of them add up. Just when she feels lost in a web of half-truths and silence, she finds something that changes everything. A note written by her sister, hidden inside a ball of red wool. It's just one of 5, and it hints at something much darker beneath the surface. Fueled by grief and a need for justice, the older sister follows the trail of these hidden messages, determined to untangle the thread of lies and finally uncover what or who drove her sister to the edge. Number 7. A Long Visit. In this film, a woman in her 30s boards a train bound for her rural hometown, quietly stepping away from her busy life in the city, her husband, her child, her career. As the train pulls away from the station, she stares out the window in silence, and memories begin to resurface. She remembers growing up in a quiet village in a small home filled with noise, hardship, and the quiet strength of her mother. Her father, a bus driver with a limp, often came home drunk, angry, and violent. She remembers watching him yell, throw things, and strike her mother while she and her younger brother hid in their room, holding back tears. Through it all, her mother, rough-spoken, loud, and full of love, stood firm, especially for the daughter she cherished above all. And she hated it. Not just the chaos, not just the shame, but the way her mother took the blows, swallowed the pain, and refused to leave. As a child, she couldn't understand it. She didn't want to become like her. So she studied. She left. She built a life far away and never looked back, except in irritation when her mother called too often or showed up with food she didn't ask for. The phone calls got shorter, the visits less frequent. Now, without a word, she's going back. No dramatic reason, no announcement, just a quiet decision to return. She comes with no gifts, no apologies, just presence, just time, for the mother who always stood in the same place, waiting, loving, enduring, even when her daughter had long stopped looking back. Coming up at number 6, One-Way Trip. The movie opens with 4 young men running for their lives through a remote beach town, the police hot on their heels. Their escape comes to a crashing halt when a sudden hit-and-run stops them in their tracks. Taken into custody, they insist they're innocent, but the police aren't buying it. And to make matters worse, the only witness gives a false statement that turns everything against them. Flashback to earlier that day, the 4 best friends, fresh into adulthood, set off on one final trip together. One of them is heading off to the military the next morning, and they want to make the most of their last day of freedom. What begins as a carefree outing filled with laughter and memories soon takes a dark turn when they find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. One impulsive act sets off a chain of events that turns their lives upside down. Number 5, May 18. Set against the backdrop of the 1980 Gwangju uprising in South Korea, the story follows a gentle, easygoing taxi driver who lives an ordinary life in the city. After losing his parents early on, he now shares a small home with his younger brother, the one person he truly treasures. The only other person who's found a place in his heart is a nurse who attends the same church as his brother. Hoping to make a good impression, he invites her to a movie, bringing his brother along to ease the awkwardness. But their brief moment of joy is short-lived. Midway through the film, smoke begins to fill the theater, and a soldier storms in, violently beating a civilian right in front of the stunned audience. Rushing outside, they're met with a terrifying scene. Crowds in panic, tear gas flooding the air, and soldiers attacking anyone in sight. Gwangju soon becomes unrecognizable. Sirens wailing, gunshots echoing, and blood on familiar streets. In the chaos, he clings to those he loves, trying desperately to protect them. But as the violence worsens and no help arrives, ordinary citizens begin to rise. They don't fight because they want to, they fight because they have no choice. And he, once just a quiet man behind the wheel, finds himself standing among them. Number 4, In Love and the War. Set in the 1950s during the Korean War, this film takes us to a quiet South Korean village that seems untouched by the violence sweeping the nation. With no real access to news, just scattered rumors and a barely working radio, the villagers carry on with life as usual. They're caught up in the excitement of preparing for the wedding of the village chief's spirited granddaughter. But their calm is short-lived. Everything changes when a unit of North Korean soldiers suddenly arrives. Tension grips the village. But instead of resistance, the locals respond with quiet hospitality, offering food, shelter, and forced smiles, simply hoping to stay safe. What begins as fear-driven cooperation slowly transforms into something more meaningful. Walls come down, friendships form, and both sides begin to experience a kind of peace they never expected. But as the war creeps closer, their fragile bond is soon threatened by the brutal truths of the outside world. Nearing the top of our list at number 3, The Last Blossom. This film tells the story of a middle-aged housewife who has quietly been the backbone of her family for years. She spends her days caring for her husband, a busy doctor who's often absorbed in his work, and her mother-in-law, who is slowly losing herself to Alzheimer's disease. Her eldest daughter is always preoccupied, torn between work and an ongoing affair with a married man. Her son, lost in his own little world, seems to care only for his girlfriend. And on top of it all, her brother and sister-in-law are a constant source of stress, always asking for money, always caught up in their own chaos. Despite everything she does, her family rarely recognizes her sacrifices and takes her presence for granted. Then, one day, after what seems like just another routine hospital checkup, everything changes. She is diagnosed with a terminal illness. Suddenly, the family is forced to confront a harsh reality. The woman they believed would always be there may not be around much longer. As time runs out, they begin to truly see her for who she is, the heart of their family, and realize just how much she means to them. Number 2, Crossing. Set in a quiet mining village in North Korea, this film tells the story of a former national footballer living with his pregnant wife and young son. Life is tough, but they cherish the little things, playing soccer together, caring for their beloved dog, and enjoying rare treats smuggled in from China by a close friend who trades across the border. Their fragile happiness is shattered when his wife falls dangerously ill with tuberculosis. Medicine for pregnant women with TB is nearly impossible to find in North Korea. Desperate, the man turns to his trader friend for help. The friend promises to look for medicine on his next trip, but before he can, the military raids his home, and his entire family is taken away. With his wife's condition worsening and barely any food at home, the man is left with no choice. He entrusts his young son with the impossible task of caring for his mother, and illegally crosses the border into China, clinging to the desperate hope of finding the medicine that might save her. But China offers no safe haven. Now an undocumented worker, he's pushed into low-paying jobs, always hiding, constantly afraid of being caught and deported. As he struggles to survive in a foreign land, tragedy strikes back home, changing everything forever. And coming in at number 1, Rockin' on Heaven's Door. This movie follows a famous Korean pop star who gets into trouble after beating up a man at a nightclub. As punishment, he's ordered to do community service at a hospice for terminally ill patients. Though he pretends to show remorse, it's clear he has no interest in being there. He finds the environment uncomfortable, the people odd, and the chores unbearable. All he wants is to finish his time and get back to his glamorous life. Then, one day, he hears that the hospice is on the brink of shutting down due to lack of funds. In response, the in-house patient band, the Phoenix Band, decides to apply for a talent show on television to help raise money. But they need an original song, and they ask him for help. He flat out refuses, saying there's no point in helping people who are going to die anyway. They try to win him over with perks like lighter duties and double duty stamps, but he's not interested. So they flip the strategy and assign him the grossest, most exhausting tasks. Still, nothing changes. Then a call from his manager brings unexpected news. There's a major opportunity abroad, but he can't take it unless he finishes his service quickly. Suddenly, he agrees to help the band, acting like he cares. The patients are thrilled, believing they're now a team. But deep down, he's still using them. Or at least, that's how it starts.